So straight away we're learning that it's actually quite difficult to be a Jehovah's Witness, and there are all sorts of scenarios where being a Jehovah's Witness actually makes your life harder, and part of the pain, part of the sorrow, part of the trauma that gets inflicted on Jehovah's Witnesses is due to this policy of shunning people, of treating people like they don't exist, purely because they stop believing. Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to the Upper Room. In today's video, I'll be taking you through my thoughts on the September JW Broadcasting episode, which was hosted by Jim Mantz. Now, just so you know, I do have a saying that guides me in my work. If it's got Mantz, it's probably pants. I have a similar saying, if I'm not wearing pants, you don't stand a chance. Anyway, enough with this nonsense. We've got a JW Broadcasting episode to debunk, damn it, so let's roll the first clip.
Many different situations can cause us trouble and sorrow, disappointment, or pain. Some of them are what we might call common because every imperfect human has to deal with them. Getting sick, growing old, and grieving the death of a loved one. Other reasons for distress could be called circumstantial. Accidents, economic problems, the breakup of a marriage, natural disasters, becoming a victim of abuse or other crimes, civil unrest, and war. In addition, we may need comfort related to our worship, living in a divided household, experiencing persecution or imprisonment, facing ridicule in school or at the workplace, or perhaps a family member or a close friend leaves Jehovah. Repentant wrongdoers also need comfort when they return to the congregation. Whether the cause of our distress is common, circumstantial, or because of our worship, all of us are in need of comfort.
So full disclosure, you've just seen some of the most interesting parts of Jim Mantz's talk. And what that means is it was a very dull, playing it by the book, paint by numbers talk. It was the sort of JW Broadcasting lecture that I would give if I just wanted to avoid controversy and I didn't want to say anything unduly alarming or anything that actually might be interesting. He played it very safe, but even in just those few words, we've learned that being a Jehovah's Witness is a cause for distress. It can cause you pain. So this is not just generically about providing comfort to anybody, whether they are a believer or not. Jim Mantz just told us, he gave us a list of various situations unique to Jehovah's Witnesses, where they will uniquely feel, trouble or sorrow or distress or pain. He listed living in a divided household. What that means is a family where some are Jehovah's Witnesses and some are not Jehovah's Witnesses. They believe differently. There is persecution and imprisonment, which I've always spoken out against. It's wrong to persecute or imprison people based on what they believe. You should go after the leaders. You shouldn't go after the followers. The third one was ridicule at work or at school. It's also wrong to ridicule people based on their beliefs. The problem is that Jehovah's Witness children are sent to school and told you should preach to your classmates. You should preach to your teacher. This is your territory. And of course, that's going to open the door for a ton of bullying, as was my personal experience. So that's a clear example of the religion itself being a cause of distress, being a cause of difficult situations that can have a profound impact on people's mental health. And then he goes on to list if a friend or a family member leaves Jehovah. So that's a cause of distress for believing Jehovah's Witnesses when someone stops believing or when they leave for any reason. It's not just about the pain of the person who's leaving, it's about the pain of those who are having to shun them. Because shunning goes entirely against people's humanity. It really does mess people up when, especially if it's a family member, let's say a parent being asked to shun their child, of course that's going to mess them up in their minds and cause all sorts of emotional and psychological trauma. And yet that's a direct result of what the Jehovah's Witness organization expects of its members. And then you have the pain or distress that might be caused when you return to Jehovah. In other words, when you come back to Jehovah's Witnesses, you're still going to need some comfort. You're still going to need some kind of support because it's going to be a difficult transition. So straight away we're learning that it's actually quite difficult to be a Jehovah's Witness. And there are all sorts of scenarios where being a Jehovah's Witness actually makes your life harder. And part of the pain, part of the sorrow, part of the trauma that gets inflicted on Jehovah's Witnesses is due to this policy of shunning people, of treating people like they don't exist, purely because they stop believing.
Naomi, whose name means my pleasantness, was living in a foreign land because of a famine in Israel. She was widowed and was grieving the death of her 2 sons. When she was able to return to Israel, the women of Bethlehem greeted her, saying, "Is this Naomi?" Feeling that Jehovah was responsible for her bitterness, she replied with the sorrowful words, "Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has made life very bitter for me." However, Naomi soon drew closer to God's people and accepted loving help. Her bitterness was replaced with joy. If you're suffering, try to resist the natural inclination to withdraw and to avoid contact with others. This will be a challenge, but experience has shown that making the effort to be with others opens the door to receiving the comfort Jehovah provides through the compassionate words and actions of our brothers and sisters.
Just think for a moment what Jim Mantz was saying there. If you're suffering, don't make the mistake of avoiding contact with others, because contact with others is actually a really important way of you getting through your suffering or getting through your pain or getting through your trauma. We need others. So don't isolate yourself. Make sure you have people around you, people who can support you. Well, isn't that precisely why shunning is so inhumane and so evil? Because when you get kicked out of Jehovah's Witnesses, when you get removed, as it's called now, or if you're disassociated, perhaps because you've accepted blood without being sorry, or you've just frankly stopped believing on conscientious grounds, usually in those situations, what will happen is people's families will be weaponized against them as a form of psychological punishment, so that the pain of ostracism is a motivation, is like a carrot dangling on a stick to draw someone back to the organization. And yet here they are acknowledging, or Jim Mantz is acknowledging, that it's detrimental to somebody for them to be isolated if they are in distress. So what Jim Mantz is doing, and I'm very grateful that he's being so open about this, is he's highlighting for us just how abusive the Jehovah's Witness organization is, because they knowingly isolate people, knowing the trauma that this is going to cause.
The Watchtower highlighted Tychicus as a trustworthy friend, and my friends have been very trustworthy, and without them, I wouldn't have been able to cope. My dad suddenly had a massive stroke, but then my brother, he left Jehovah, and then just a few months later my dad died. A good close friend of mine, she invited me for hot chocolate, and then she just asking how I was getting on. I said I was really struggling to sleep, and she very kindly showed me her journal. I thought it was such a great idea, and I found it really helped. I would always have 5 things that I could say thank you to Jehovah for. My husband Luke is an amazing listener, just listening to whatever I was feeling at that time, even if it was a bit wild. There were other brothers and sisters that also were very patient with me, and I would repeat myself over and over again. They didn't mind, they were just happy to listen. I needed reassurance because I didn't feel I was coping with my father. It was like I couldn't believe he'd passed away until I'd seen the death certificate. And it was the same with my brother. It wouldn't be real until I heard the announcement. And I thought, that's going to sound very strange. But I shared that with my friend, and she said, no, that's fine, it's okay. And that was really reassuring. I didn't think I was going crazy.
We've just been watching one of several stories from the segment Lessons from the Watchtower. This is from the September JW Broadcasting episode. We've been listening to Sezzy Samuels. Her part was especially interesting for me because it really demonstrated the mindset that Jehovah's Witnesses are expected to have when someone leaves Jehovah, when they stop believing, or if they are removed from the congregation. The mindset of a Jehovah's Witness is effectively that that person has died. I mean, think about it. Sezzy Samuels is talking about the literal death of her father after her father had suffered a massive stroke. So a legitimate reason for her to be traumatized and in need of support with her mental health. And on a level playing field with that trauma, in the same breath, she is talking about her brother leaving Jehovah, no longer being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And she even goes on to say, I needed to see the death certificate to know that it was really happening, that my father had really died. And by the same token, I needed to hear the announcement that my brother was no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses in order to believe it. Because when you leave Jehovah's Witnesses or when you get thrown out, there is an announcement that you are no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Sezzy Samuels there is drawing a direct parallel between that announcement and a death certificate. She needed the closure of that announcement so that she could effectively treat her brother like he had died. So not only did she lose her father, she also lost her brother, even though her brother was still alive. It's just that he might as well have died because he had dared to leave Jehovah's Witnesses.
It was as if Jehovah were saying, I'm here, my daughter. I'm right here for you. And I sent these brothers so that they can strengthen and encourage you. So don't give up.
I never imagined at the moment that I felt the most alone and sad, Jehovah would provide that visit for me and my uncle.
May Jehovah continue to bless them in their beautiful work. What those brothers did for me made all the difference.
I felt Jehovah's loving care through these brothers. That brotherly love was made so real to me. It motivated me to give back.
It allows us to convey a small portion of the immense love Jehovah has for us. and they're always so grateful for the visit, recognizing it as one way Jehovah and his organization care for them.
You can see it on their face and from their expressions that they consider this tender care as coming from Jehovah. It's so rewarding to be used by Jehovah in this way.
The patient visitation group has experienced the truthfulness of Jesus' words. There's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving.
There's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. Those are the words of Jim Mantz regarding the PVG, the Patients Visitation Group, which some of you, probably most of you, have never heard of before. Usually when we talk about Jehovah's Witnesses being hospitalized, we talk about HLCs, Hospital Liaison Committees, which are kind of elite elders that go out to hospitals and effectively enforce the blood teaching, the teaching that Jehovah's Witnesses should abstain from blood transfusions. We know about HLCs, or most people know about HLCs who follow Jehovah's Witnesses, but fewer people perhaps know about PVGs, patient visitation groups. And in this month's or last month's JW Broadcasting episode, September 2025, they give you a segment which is like a little mini documentary where they follow the stories of several Jehovah's Witnesses from various countries who have had positive experiences with the PVG. They've been gravely, in some cases terminally ill, and the PVG has enabled them to experience support and comfort at an incredibly stressful time. And on the surface, you look at it and you think, I don't see anything wrong with this. This is actually the sort of thing that is a positive in a religious context. If I'm looking at a religious group, I want to see a group that sends out people who can comfort people when they are in hospital or when they are facing a really desperate health condition. That's surely a good thing. And I agree, it is a good thing. I wish that that's all they were doing. But when they started talking about PVGs, my memory of these things kicked in, and I realized, of course, that PVGs are part of the HLC apparatus and basically a way for HLCs to learn about Jehovah's Witnesses who have been hospitalized so that they can get involved with or without the consent of the patient. And this led to me talking to my friend Chaka, who is a JW Watch team member. Chaka actually happens to be a former HLC elder. And I was just explaining this video to him and what my basic thoughts were. And he said, you do realize there is that leaked video that basically shows a PVG elder divulging private personal patient information to a HLC elder showing how this process works. And I was like, I hadn't remembered that video. So why don't we take a look?
Hey Solomon, it's good to see you this morning. It looks like we have a nice group out today.
Yes, you're right. And I was hoping to catch you for a few minutes before service. Do you have time?
Yes, I do. Go ahead, have a seat, please. Tell me what's on your mind.
You know, my PVG assignment is at a downtown Mercy hospital, and I wanted you to know that I just visited Brother Dodd from the East Congregation. He's doing well, but he just had what sounds like an extremely difficult emergency surgery performed by a very cooperative surgeon.
First of all, thank you for making the visit. It's good to know Brother Dodd is recovering well. Do you know the name of the procedure?
Yes, I wrote it down so I would get it right. It was the repair of a dissecting aortic aneurysm.
Whoa, you're right. That is a very challenging surgery to perform, and complications can arise afterward. If the brother is open to a visit, I would like to speak to him.
Oh yes, I'm sure he would appreciate your visit.
Excellent. Can you text me the information?
I have it written down for you right here.
Great. Did Brother Dodd give you the name of the surgeon?
Yes, It's Dr. Vasquez. He's a vascular surgeon.
That name doesn't sound familiar.
Dr. Vasquez told Brother Dodd that he had treated several witnesses before, but had never managed a dissecting aortic aneurysm in a witness patient. But after consulting with another doctor, he told Brother Dodd that he felt he could perform the procedure without blood.
This is excellent information, Solomon. Thank you. I wonder who the consulting doctor was. Thank you for your diligent work and communication. It helps us to know about doctors like him. I'm going to follow up on this right away.
This was exciting, and I'm really going to be on the lookout for more cases like this one.
Thanks again, Solomon. Enjoy your day out in the ministry.
This was exciting, and I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for more cases like this one. On the lookout, says Solomon, to help you, the HLC, harvest information about stricken Jehovah's Witness patients who've just undergone serious surgery that could involve the blood issue. I mean, if this isn't a smoking gun, I don't know what is. It just perfectly highlights my point. The PVG isn't some separate thing entirely to the HLC. The PVG apparently reports to the HLC, so a HLC will have a PVG committee member whose responsibility it is to take care of assigning PVG visits. And when a PVG elder learns that a particular Jehovah's Witness has undergone some kind of surgery or some kind of treatment on a condition that could end up involving the blood issue, the prohibition of blood when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, it's their duty to report it to the HLC. And you'll have noticed when Solomon was divulging the information about Brother Dodd, not once was he asked, hang on, hold on a minute, does Brother Dodd give you permission to give me his information? Is Brother Dodd okay with this? Has he requested the involvement of the HLC? That was never even an issue. And by the way, this video, which I accept is quite painful to watch, the acting is very bad. And it's, just so you know, circa 2020. It was that kind of period when it was in circulation among HLC elders. This video is clearly not part of the September JW broadcasting episode. Let me make that very clear. What you've just been watching is leaked. So it's quite possible that this is nowhere else on YouTube. I haven't checked. Maybe it is. But very likely you're watching this for the very first time, and you're one of only a small number of people who have seen it now that you've watched it. And this is not intended for general circulation. And you can see why, because it's extremely damning. It shows that PVG elders report to HLC elders and will again divulge personal patient medical information without the consent of the Jehovah's Witness patient, so that the HLC can swing into operation and either go and visit the Jehovah's Witness patient without their invitation, or contact a doctor who has performed a procedure and make sure he is cooperative or sympathetic to the Jehovah's Witness position, so that they can add his details to their list for the next time a Jehovah's Witness is facing this issue.
Well, according to our cooperative doctors list, there is no Dr. Vasquez shown. I know. Let me check the hospital website and see if I can find him there. Sure enough, there he is, listed as a cardiothoracic and vascular surgeon. He has impressive credentials. This could be a very important contact. I think I'll call his office right now and see if I can get an appointment. Oh, wait. This is too important of a matter to not ask for Jehovah's help. Let me offer a quick prayer first. Yes, my name is Jason Hernandez, and I'm with the Hospital Liaison Committee for Jehovah's Witnesses. Just recently, Dr. Vasquez performed a challenging operation without blood on a witness patient. The surgery was very successful, and the patient was impressed with the quality of care. Could I schedule a brief appointment with Dr. Vasquez to personally meet him and see if he would be willing to accept future witness cases? Yes. Early Monday morning would be fine. 8 a.m.? Thank you. I'll be there.
It's messed up, isn't it? It's all kinds of messed up. You have here a completely untrained, unqualified man inserting himself in medical matters. He has no formal training as a doctor that we know of. The only thing that qualifies him in this scenario is the fact that he's a Jehovah's Witness elder who's risen up the ladder and got himself on a hospital liaison committee. That's it. Those are his qualifications. And yet he is inserting himself in a critical medical situation involving a patient who hasn't given their consent for him to be involved. And he is immediately capitalizing on that situation so that he can network, so that he can reach out to this doctor and get that doctor on his list of cooperative doctors. That's what we're dealing with, folks. Again, not part of the JW Broadcasting episode for September. Let me be absolutely clear about that, just in case Jehovah's Witness copyright lawyers are circling. This is all fair use, folks. This is leaked footage, but I think people need to see this. Because when Jehovah's Witnesses try to convince you that their elders are in hospitals for purely humanitarian reasons, yes, there may be a grain of truth to that. I'm sure that Jehovah's Witness elders do provide some kind of positivity and encouragement in those scenarios. But in the case of the PBG, it's very much a case of elders going to the bedsides of Jehovah's Witness patients, gathering information on them, and then reporting that information back to the HLC, who definitely have a conflict of interest when it comes to patient care, because they are more interested in the Jehovah's Witness refusing blood than the Jehovah's Witness having successful life-saving treatment. Anyway, those were my thoughts on the September JW Broadcasting episode. It's obviously a shorter rebuttal than usual, because frankly there wasn't that much interesting to talk about. Again, if it's got Mantz, it's probably pants. A big thank you to my hundreds of patrons and YouTube channel members who make it possible for me to do this work, to leap on this material and show it to you in its proper context so that you can all understand what Jehovah's Witnesses are really about. If you are interested in joining my patrons and YouTube channel members, you will find links below. But that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.